Today I'm going to refinish the top of this buffet table or console table. First I'm going to protect the floor underneath it, and I'll show you a picture of what it looked like when I first got it. It was pretty rough shape. I painted the top a beige and it looked really good, but then I made a major error that I have to do something to fix, so I'm trying a new finish. I'll be using this dark purple that I almost dropped on the floor and combining it with this grayish white paint. The grayish white paint will take the dark purple to something closer to medium. What I want is a medium brown. I couldn't open this container, but I have this can opener that works pretty well, or jar opener. And I will add some of the light paint to the dark purple to get closer to the medium brown that I want, and later I will correct it for being purple, and I'll show you in a few minutes how I do that. I'm going to go ahead and apply some of the newly mixed paint on top for later reference. To tell me what color that is, I'll add back in the lighter paint to this can and also put the new color on top for later reference. Now, setting that aside, let's pull a chair up for comfort and get started. To start with, I will add water to the top of this. This will slow the dry time down, and I'm using a roller to evenly distribute it. If you have a mister, you could use that. I'm going to pour some of this dark purple paint into a paper plate, and using a big brush, I'm going to go ahead, and you can see that it's watered down when it goes on now. I'm going to use this this wood graining tool, which is fairly common. You can find it in a number of places, but I should do the whole thing at once. You can see in the middle there, it doesn't look quite right. So part of the water down aspect means I can do this repeatedly without it being an issue. The water does make it so the paint's performance over time might be diminished, or the durability, but because I'm going to do a water-based polyurethane top coat, I don't need to worry very much about this. How satisfying it is to apply the paint is pretty nice, but how absolutely satisfying it is to use this faux wood graining tool is hard to describe. I like the way it looks up to a point. It's incredibly stark, and it looks like plank flooring, and clearly fake wood. So I also want it darker. So I'm going to be dragging this tool across it in different ways so that it doesn't look as stark, it doesn't look as uniform, and it doesn't look as what you might consider to be correct. I think a perfectionist might lose their mind watching this part. But the overall effect at the end is going to be much closer to what I'm going for. I allow it to dry a little bit and then add more paint on top so that I have a kind of wood grain on wood grain effect. I continue to do this throughout the piece and apply more paint, in part because I want it to be darker than what it's showing as right now. The first half of it looks about like what I want before I'm going to move on to the next step, where I'm going to correct for the purple and also correct for it being a pretty stark contrast, which is not what I want. But I am not patient enough at the back here about letting it dry some, and so I keep making that plank look exactly like a wooden plank, which is not my intention. Do it a couple more times. Eventually I will learn my lesson here, and I will wait a little while to allow it to dry well enough so that I can apply some paint and then use the wood graining tool to have it look similar, though not identical, to the rest of the piece. So the harsh look of plank flooring is now gone, and it is becoming something much closer to what I'm going for. The last piece really did test my patience, which apparently I was losing for a minute there. But I gained patience enough to get it all looking fairly uniform in color, not in design, of course, because I don't want it to be the same design across the whole board. Once it dries, I'm going to use a water-based poly stain combo. This is a medium brown stain mixed with polyurethane. I'm using a pool noodle with which to apply it. I'm just going to pour it on, and I have a chip brush in case I think I might need that. It turns out I won't, so I'll set it aside. And I'm just going to wipe that polyurethane with stain combo right on top of it. This is going to not only provide a really protective top coat, but it's going to mute the contrast pretty dramatically. So, and turn the purple into a darker brown instead of a dark purple. The lighter beige underneath will become a slightly lighter brown than the purple, creating the effect that I want. I continue over the entire piece. The method of application is just cut off a piece of a pool noodle, slice part of that off and use it as a handle. You may have seen people do this using a paint roller because you don't want to roll on paint, you don't want to roll on polyurethane because it'll create bubbles in the polyurethane. So one way to get around that is take a paint roller. Now you can see what it looks like as it's drying, and then we're going to go to when it is dry. It's almost what I want, but it's not quite uniform, so I'm going to mix a water-based polyurethane with the stain and water-based polyurethane, as well as some Floetrol. To reduce the dry time, it'll help it dry more evenly across the surface. Once I mix those, I go back to my pool noodle. And as I said, you can see people do it with a paint roller that they'll cut and use as a handle just like this. For this application, the pool noodle is less expensive and very effective. In more delicate applications, you wouldn't want to use this because there are some errors that, because of the faux wood finish, are just not going to be apparent by the end of this. After it's finished, I wouldn't be able to tell you where there are errors and where it's part of the faux wood finish that I put on. A faux wood finish is really good at covering mistakes, and this piece had a lot. So here it is the next day, dried, and it is exactly what I was going for, only better. My only complaint is it doesn't photograph as well as it looks in person, but it does look really lovely, and it is a dramatic improvement from where it was in the beginning. I took a number of different photos and edited them. You can see some of the things I tried here. I also staged the piece and posted it with a collage to show people where there were errors and so they could get a better idea of the details. Here's the final piece. Like, subscribe, or comment if you will. Have a good day.